Enderpearls are used to teleport you instantly, but how far is that? And I want to find this out because I am tired of losing every game of Skywars because I don't know where to aim. Now there's three main factors I want to test. First one being angles. Now I expect the angle to be 45 because that is the perfect angle according to physics. But is that true in Minecraft? I don't know. So I'm gonna throw it at every angle to see how far it goes. I need pen and paper for this. And if you're wondering how I made this test scientific, here's a few things I had to take care of. First of all, I had to make sure I used the TP command to make sure I threw the Ender Pearl at the same place, and I made sure I was throwing at the correct angle. And because Ender Pearls are thrown randomly, I also did this 5 times, put it in a chart, and then I calculated the average of those 5 throws. And this part was very boring. Like yeah, I literally went insane. So let's just skip to see if 45 is the perfect angle. I swear, this ain't 45. What? So I went ahead and put the biggest numbers in this graph, and as you can see, 45 is not the biggest. It's actually 35. The reason is because of height. Because the higher you are, the farther you can throw the Ender Pearl because you have more air time. But that's only true if the angles are the same. The higher the angle, the steeper it falls. That makes sense. Which means if you're on a mountain and you want to throw the further you can, it makes more sense to throw at a lower angle than it does at 45. What does this have to do with 45 not being the best? Well, you see, when you're throwing an item, you're not throwing from your hand, you're actually throwing from your head, which is about 1.6 blocks high. And this 1.5 block change makes a difference. Now I also wanted to test how different it is to throw an Ender Pearl on Bedrock Edition. And as you can tell from this graph, throwing Ender Pearls on Bedrock Edition is so much better. There's a few things I noticed, and the obvious one is that you can throw an Ender Pearl much farther. And it's also more consistent. You can't see that from the graph, but you can see this from this table. The third thing I noticed, even though I just talked about why 45 is not the best angle, it is on Bedrock Edition. Now why is this? I don't know. But if I had to come up with a reason, it'd probably be because it could be thrown further or because of velocity. And that's kind of what I want to test next. So I'm gonna test player state. So for the past test, I've been standing still while throwing Ender Pearls, but I also want to see the difference of jumping and then while sprinting. And I'll also sprint jump just to see how far it can go, because if you combine two things, that would probably give us the best throw. I'm gonna test jumping first. Now there's something I had to keep in mind when doing this test, and that was velocity, because there are actually two different types of velocity. There's horizontal velocity and vertical velocity. Basically, there's 3 phases of jumping. You're going up, and then you reach a max point, and then you go back down. But when you're going up, you always have positive velocity, and when you're going down, it's always negative. And then at the midpoint, that's practically 0. This is how vertical velocity looks like when you're jumping, which actually makes it hard to capture data, because at least when you sprint, there's a part where it's constant, but when you're jumping, that doesn't exist, right? And obviously velocity does affect how you throw your Ender Pearl, right? If you have more velocity, the pearl is gonna go farther, and if you have less, it's gonna go lower. Now when I was testing the jumping, I noticed there's a huge margin of error, right? And if you look at this chart, you can see jumping wasn't that accurate. It basically looks like a line. And something interesting, 35 is no longer the best angle when sprinting. That becomes 40. This is similar to Bedrock, where the velocity is higher. Now when you combine both of these, they actually make a huge difference. Now obviously there's a huge margin of error. Right, I'm sprinting and I'm jumping. Right, I easily got results as low as 60. And all you can really do is just practice until you consistently get 90s.